5:30, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, would you please read our mission statement?
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Moving on to our agenda, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additions? Hearing none, let's vote. It is approved. Tiger Spotlight.
This week is American Education Week, and as you were all talking about prior to the board meeting starting, you'll be serving some treats to staff in each of the buildings tomorrow in recognition of that. But if you have any opportunities to, tomorrow really the message is about thank you for everything that everyone does. It's anyone who works in our district, works with kids, and everybody plays an important role. So if you have an opportunity to say thank you, not just tomorrow, but anytime this week and this year, it'd be appreciated to take that chance to say thank you to everyone and show your gratitude for all that they do. So it's an opportunity this week to just celebrate education and those who work in education.
Public forum. Now it's time if anybody in the public like to approach the board. Moving on to our presentation, Marshall Public Schools Safety Update. You have to leave the helmets on, right? Oh, that's a Steeler game, right? Got it. Okay.
I know it's coming. It's while we're talking about safety and security today. Just want to thank the board and for letting us present today. It's Jeremy Williams, Tricia Stelter, and myself to give an update of where we're at with our school safety and security. I know we give little updates as we go on, and you guys saw some of it during the tours, but we just wanted to kind of give you guys an update what's happened the last few weeks. So just kind of going a little bit of background. As you guys are well aware of, for the last 3+ years, there's been an overwhelming request from the community when we survey them that we put safety and security towards the front of our needs. And our admin and our board has been respectful of that, and therefore we've kind of gotten to where we are today. Wanted to just kind of go over again how we got here and how we can pay for these things. Back in August of 2018, legislature approved $25 million to fund some school safety grants. Grants could be used to design, construct, furnish, equip school facilities to improve related violence prevention and facility security for the quality of school buildings. We sent in an application for all 5 of our schools. Each school was a separate application, and it was basically a random number that was addressed to each school, and then they pulled those numbers out. We were fortunate enough to receive 2 of the grants in October. We were awarded 2 of the grants, one for the middle school and one for Westside. And just throwing up some of the numbers again, there were 1,187 applications that were submitted and over $255 million requested. So to be able to get 2 of our 5 schools we were very fortunate. Just to kind of give you an update too, So West Side grant was for $690,000. Middle school grant, which covered the middle school main entrance, our early childhood entrance, and district office entrance, was close to $500,000. And as of August, just kind of give you an update, we have both been invoiced and reimbursed by MDE, $114,000 for West Side and a little over $260,000 for middle school. We do plan on utilizing 100% of the grants. October was a big month for our construction. That's when the armored doors were installed in all of our locations. We haven't been invoiced for those yet, so. And we do have some other jobs I'll show you coming up here that we have left to do. So as I said, we were very fortunate to get the grants to help out with the funding for the middle school and West Side, which left Parkside, the high school, and Maytech. And thanks to the community support in May, as you know, the referendum passed, which will help fund those locations. And obviously, the new school will have the secured entrances and the safety enhancements that we're talking about. So, what has been done so far? As you've seen when you've walked into the district office, we've added the video door stations and the video management phones. So when a visitor comes in the building, they will need to use the video door station by pushing a button, and that will allow them to talk through the speaker to someone in the office. One of the employees then can answer to speak to the visitor, to ask what they're doing there or what their visit's for. They also have the video. What's nice is they can actually speak to them, hear them, and see them from the video. A lot of our locations we tried to set up so the window was there also, so they can see the full body. And then we also placed those video door stations inside the vestibules, which was just something that would be nice for visitors when they come in, so they're not standing outside in the cold. So the video door stations, where we have them located or will have them located, Parkside will have it at the main entrance, and then we'll also have one eventually at the new early childhood entrance, which is right now it's the A wing at Parkside. West Side right now we have one at the main entrance. Middle school, we have at the main entrance the district office, early childhood entrance, which that one we'll try and relocate to use at another location once that's no longer there. And then we also are upgrading, we have one at our dock at the middle school. We're upgrading that to the current version, but the dock one's used a little differently. So when somebody at the dock buzzes in, it goes to the administrative assistant at the front office. And instead of just buzzing them in, they'll have a custodian go to the dock to let them in. We're not just going to allow them to come in. Maytech will have one at the main entrance and the daycare entrance. And then the high school will have one at the main entrance. There is a physical ed entrance towards the back of the school that they go out during Phi Ed. And if a kid needs to come in, if they're out there, then they can buzz in. They won't just be able to come in. We do have one there. It's an older style. And then again at the dock at the high school. The video management phones, tried to set those up so there's at least 2 at each location that there's a video station. So if somebody's away from their desk, there's a backup to it. So you can see the different locations and the number of phones that we'll have at each of those. You guys have seen the secured entrance at the middle school, but just kind of go over it a little bit here. So the picture on the left shows the entrance into the office with the video management system on the wall. And then the door on the right now shows the exit door into the school, which is now separated by the second set of doors at the vestibule, which during the school day would be locked. They're unlocked, I believe, from 7:30 to 8:05, and then they automatically are programmed to lock. The entrance door and the exit door are armored doors. Just kind of give you a little background on that. They're bullet resistant, B3 rated glass. This glass is made of a glass-like material that is thicker than the normal glass. If a bullet is fired at the sheet of bullet-resistant glass, it'll pierce the outside layer of the glass, but the layered polycarbonate glass material is able to absorb the bullet energy and stop it before the final exit. So we have it on those two doors. And I'll talk a little bit about the film that's on the second vestibule doors coming up here. So some of the other secured entrances that are completed, if you haven't been down to the early childhood, sometime walk down there, it's pretty cool. We've got the entrance to the early childhood office that has the armored door. Also, you can see the video management system on the frame of it. And now the two classroom doors also have the armored doors, which are glass, which is nice. So if a teacher comes up, they can actually see who's coming to the door. They used to just be wood. They were locked, but they were just wood doors. You couldn't see who was coming in. District office, you've seen our doors. And then West Side also received one of the armored doors into the entrance. And again, we'll try to utilize that at a different location once we start the construction of the new building and the additions to Parkside. Plan secured entrances, just give you an idea what we've talked about at the high school. So when you walk into the first set of the vestibule doors, you see where the window and the vent is. The window will be replaced with the armored door, and the vent will be relocated. There will be a visitor management system there that will allow them to speak to someone in the office to get buzzed in. The second set of vestibule doors now will be locked as soon as school starts. And then once they're in the office, they'll check in, and then they'll be able to exit out the second set of doors into the school. Parkside, kind of the same concept. On the left, we'll relocate the plaque, and then the vent underneath will be relocated also. So the door will actually be going through there. As you guys know, our Parkside office situation, we'll have to revamp that a little bit to accommodate the new system here. But once the doors are put in there, they'll enter into the office, they'll check in, and then to the right of the flag there will be a set of doors that will exit into the school. I'll come back to that one. So I talked a little bit about the shatter-resistant film. We've applied that to some of the windows. You can see on these pictures here, but they'll also be applied at some of the windows at Parkside, Maytech, and the high school. Between all 5 buildings, I believe there's over 4,000 square feet that will have been applied of the shatter-resistant film. Just to kind of give a background of what the shatter-resistant film is, it's a 3M safety film that works with the same principle as the binding agent in an automotive glass. Where there's an impact, the film will keep the glass from shattering. So usually an object that hits the windshield makes a hole in the windshield, but the glass doesn't shatter. There's also a sealant around the window that helps to hold that window and the film in place. And what that will hopefully do is to buy some extra time if somebody's trying to break in for authorities to come. Also part of the safety and security is a lockdown button. What the lockdown button will do is that'll, by pushing the lockdown button, that will, in different locations, it'll shut and lock some doors. Hopefully keeping the intruder either outside or secured into the office, if they're in the office. Also by hitting the lockdown button, we have, I've put the number of strobe lights that we have around the buildings. They're a blue strobe light, and what that will do is that'll go off when the lockdown button's hit, telling visitors or people entering the building we're in a lockdown not to enter the building, because we don't want anybody coming in the building during a lockdown. We do have, hopefully we're going to be integrating the lockdown button with some of the other programs and systems we have too.
Lockdown button is in the principal's office.
Lockdown button is located in different locations.
Can kids have access to it?
No.
Okay.
We try to put it in an indiscreet area, so if it needs to be pushed, it can be pushed without somebody noticing it. Also, that's going to be added to every location are door contacts. What that is all the outside doors will have a door contact, so if they're propped open or opened at a certain time, they shouldn't be. As you can see on the bottom, it'll show up on a program. Right now, Todd has access to this program, but Scott and I have talked about probably giving access to Warren, building lead, and maybe the building principal, just so they can, not that they're monitoring that, but so we can see if there's a door that's being propped open, if there is a certain problem. The whole part of the whole thing we're trying to do is keep the building secured, and propping the door open eliminates that. So I just want to go back. There were some certain things, there's different things that we found when we were doing the safety and security at the middle school that we found necessary additions. On the left, you'll see a door that was added to the middle school office. That's over by Peter Thor's office. Right before this, it was just an entryway. So to secure the office, the front door would lock, the entry door would lock, or the door to the school would lock, but then you'd still have an entryway to get into, there's 2 other doors to get into the school. So what we did was we added the frame and the door with a mag hold open. So in other words, when the lockdown button's pushed, that mag hold open will release, the door will shut and lock. And then also the door to the school would lock, giving the only exit to the intruder or the person in the office. They could leave the office to the outside, but they can't get in the school. So without adding that door, we would have had a problem where the intruder still could have gotten throughout the school. We'll be adding that also to Parkside and the high school to make that a smaller bubble to keep that person in a smaller area. Second thing, it's a little hard to see, is a key switch. A lot of the doors that we have now are programmable, but with us renting our facilities, activities, after-school programs, conferences, our board meetings, we didn't want Todd to have to program every single thing that was coming in. So what this allows is for our custodians to bypass the electric lock and then use the key to unlock and lock it. The early childhood one was put on right away. The 2 that we're going to add to the district office and the middle school will actually have a red and green light on it. So you know if it's unlocked or locked. So if a custodian's walking by at 10 o'clock and the event's over, they'll know if that's locked or unlocked. And then also the key fob readers, we added a few of those. That's just important. More and more we're trying to get away from the physical key. When you're using the key fob as an employee, it tracks who's in and out. Not that that's what we want to do, but it also, if an employee quits or loses their key, we can disable that key right away. It's an easier way to track those. So we won't be adding a lot of these, but in certain places that we can eliminate a key, we'll probably try and add those. So any questions on that portion? Okay, I'll turn it over to Todd, or Jeremy.
I want to share a little bit about Crisis Go with you. That's a crisis communication app that we've subscribed to for this year. It's what I'm actually do is walk through a demo with you and show you what it can do. This is an app that we've got. All staff have it on their phone, and then administrators can manage groups for within their building. So if there's a crisis or emergency or something, there's a way to. It almost works like a text message feature. You can message back and forth, and there's alerts and such. We can take attendance through this app. Our crisis plan is actually loaded on this plan too, on this app. So when you're out on a lockdown, for example, we can take track. We can find out where everyone's at. We can find out if we're missing any staff or kids. We can find what the protocol is. We have contacts for external vendors that we might have to work with if we need to call the bus company. Those numbers are all it's all located within the app, or food service, or a school board member, for example. We could have all those contacts with us without quick access to campus necessarily. So what Trisha's going to pull up here for us is there's a version of the app can go on the computers as well. So you're going to see the version off of her computer. It looks just like it does on the app. And then I'm going to walk through and show you some of the features. For what we're working on tonight is I have a training group set up. So Scott and Dion, you're in my training group. So when we have an alert go off, you'll hear it in this room. No one else in the district is hearing this. But typically what you'll see with the alarms and such is anybody within a certain building, for example, would have that. So if Brian's doing one at the high school and sets off an alert, it goes to all of the staff at the high school that have this app, either on their phone or on their computer, or it could be on both if they choose. So the first thing I'm going to show, we're going to go to the training group. If you want to click on that on yours. The first feature that we use is the messaging within there. So you can see within this group we were playing with a little bit earlier to make sure we're ready for tonight. There's like a text message kind of feature in there. So Tricia could type a message to all members in the group and it will say to all, or you can send to just the managers. And she might say, intruder in the PD room. And then that would pop up on our phones and we would see that. We know there's something going on that we need to be aware of. Another feature that's kind of nice with the text message piece, see it says send image or send audio or send video. So if I want to make sure that she knows there's something going on in the PD room and we don't know who the intruder might be, I could send a picture of this intruder, and then everyone on that group has access to see what that is. So I say, there's this man in the PD room, looks a lot like Scott Munson. So you know what the intruder looks like. You can send videos in there. You can send just an audio file if you want. Is that just buffering? Is that what's going on there? The other thing that's kind of nice with that is location. I can pin my location to this group. So if I'm in a spot and I'm having a crisis, emergency, or something's going on, I know I need to evacuate. Actually, once I pin my location, it will follow me. So if Bill's my principal and I want him to find me on this field trip, he can see where my dot is and follow me through the app and come find me, or emergency management can find that kind of thing. So see it pinned that I'm at the middle school in that one. And the picture's loading slow there a bit. So a handy messaging feature there. The other thing that's nice that we use is there's an alert system. So if you want to click on the alert, Tricia, and show them what that looks like. No, just back to there's a screen, there's a quick alert that's on the phone again. There's the picture we took of Scott to
There's
show
the picture.
the intruder in the building. So we have fire, lockdown with intruder, severe weather, or medical emergency. So if I click fire, it'll say, is this an alert or a drill? So if I'm a principal running a drill at my school, I click drill, and it keeps track that it's actually just a drill. Actually, I'm in the wrong group here now. I'm about to set it off to actually everyone at the high school. But we can send it off that way as well. I think I got a salt here is what's going to go off. So when an alert goes off, there's actually a siren that goes off. Even if your phone's on silent, that will go off. The only way to disable that is so you wouldn't hear it. You'd have to go in the app and specifically set that off, or shut that off so you wouldn't hear it. So the idea is you'll get that no matter what. People know that's going off. When I release it, it beeps to let you know it's been released. That means that situation's been taken care of. So principal sends that out, and everyone in the building knows that that's been taken care of. I think Dion's been sharing whatever he's got with me is what's going on with that, Scott. Roster event is the other thing that's really nice in here. So a roster event, this is actually how we can take attendance. So I can click in here that I want to take a, and mine's showing it's tied to the one from before. I don't know what I did, Tricia. Yeah. Do you see it on yours? So what happens is the teacher can see their class roster. It's all tied. It links to campus, so we're not entering other data in here. It actually just talks to campus and gets a list of kids and such in there. Principal can see, it says you ended it now, so now I can start another one. All right, so we're going to say we need to take attendance. So it lets all the teachers know, okay, we need to take attendance. We're at a spot I need to know who's accounted for. So you can click OK as a reminder, I'm going to take my attendance, and then teachers are going to click in there, so Tricia will show you what that looks like. You actually will see a list of who the kids are. You can either see them by grade or by section or whichever one you want. So even if you're not with a section of kids at that time, but you have kids that are with you, if they're not assigned you that block, you can still find them in there and mark them accounted for. There's a, you should click on the report page. You see that? Show you how many kids have been accounted for, if we're missing kids or where they're at. You can see if it's one teacher that hasn't taken attendance or what's going on there. So we actually see 2 kids are unreported from that group. A couple kids are completed in that group. And I just in the training group here, but you would see all the kids for the building at one time there, which is pretty handy to have.
And so you can imagine how long that took us before each teacher had a paper copy of their roster, and then their neighboring teacher had a copy in case that teacher was absent. And so it took quite a bit of time to go through, and then somebody would have to go collect all of those and then match that against our student information system to see if that student was out for an appointment or.
And you're digging out a computer and logging into campus and finding the list there, and yeah, just
Whereas now this is more
quick.
real time. It's right there in front of you.
Right. The other thing I want to show you is there's another button on the bottom of the screen you log in, and it says panic. So and we've actually had this, some teachers have used this, like on the playground, something happened, I need help right now. I push the panic button and says, are you sure you want to send it? Say yes. And it lets the managers of that group, the building principal or whoever you set up to receive that know something's going on, I need to find out what's going on. And then I could type a note in there and say, I'm on the playground, I need help because Jeff ran away or something like that. So pretty handy app that we're kind of getting figured out. The other piece that I don't necessarily have a demonstration of tonight, but that's tied in there is our bullying reports, our online reporting and stuff is all kind of through this too. So we can pull that up on the app too. If something comes in middle of the night, we can access that and see that, and all tied to the same group. So.
So if the building's in lockdown,
Mhm.
and all the doors are locked, how do the police get in?
They have access. They actually have key card access. So that key fob Dion showed, they can come in that way. Yep. And he mentioned with his too that some of those features were tying together. So Crisis Go is one of those that we're working on that with. So when you go into a lockdown, it would set certain security protocols at certain doors. So a fire, we don't want to be locking anybody out. We want to make sure emergency personnel can get in. But in a lockdown, we want to make sure that people aren't getting, in or out of the buildings. So it will, just through the app, it will automatically lock that down. So.
What do you do when you get a report of several students unaccounted for?
Then we'd follow up, and see, are they in someone else's group? We can send a message out, hey, I'm looking for Tricia Stelter. Is anyone have eyes on her? Yep. Then we might go into a lockdown or, something else to search for a kid. It all depends on the grade level and, what the situations are around that. But
Another category that we can choose is last seen. And so if we know that we sent a student to the restroom, as an example, we can say last seen in the restroom. And then
Yeah.
we would notice send Jeremy down to the restroom to check for that student.
right. The thing that we do say with that is, even if, you think that Tricia maybe wasn't here today, don't mark her absent if you're not sure. If you don't,
Or accounted.
right, don't mark her accounted for wherever, because don't say, I know she's not here today, because maybe she came in the meantime or something like that. So only mark for who you got. Right?
I know you mentioned that all full-time teachers have access to it. Is this something that anybody who subs in the district has access to as well, or has?
We don't have the subs figured out yet, but for all staff, including non-certified staff, have access to it. Subs are just some other things around that. Once we put you in a group, you're in that group all the time. So maybe you sub at the high school one day and the middle school another day. That's something, Crisis Go has been very responsive. We said, this is something we really want to fix. And they said, well, let's see if we can work out something for that. So some of those ongoing discussions, but yeah, there's a lot of little things like that we still have to figure out. But,
So if you have a medical emergency at the middle school,
Mhm.
and then you usually have a lockdown with a medical emergency, so does that just go to that school?
right, yeah. It's all set up by training groups. So when we pulled ours up, you saw a bunch of groups. For someone in that building, they would only see their group, and then it only communicates with them. And then there's a few of us at district office that see it, just in case somebody's not there in that building, so we know we got to follow up on that. Yep. Any questions on Crisis Go? All right, Trish is going to show you Raptor. You good?
I hope so. If the technology works as well as it did for Jeremy, we're good to go. All right, so the third component to our presentation tonight is called Raptor Technologies. And so what Raptor is it's an electronic visitor management system, and that was put in place to help improve the safety and security within our buildings. This new system really allows us to track who's coming in and out of our buildings by requesting a government-issued ID, such as a driver's license, or maybe it's the Minnesota-issued identification card or a passport. And then what we end up doing is scanning that ID. And when we do that, in the background, it's running a check against the National Sex Offender Database in all 50 states. And so if there is a match, and matches are based upon first name, last name, and date of birth, if there's a match, we in the office will get a notice on our computer that says, hey, there's a potential match. Please confirm whether this is accurate or not. And when that notification pops up, we'll see a picture. Every sex offender has a picture on the national database, and so that will pop up. We'll look at that picture, we'll look at the person standing in front of us, or maybe the photo that was on their identification, and we'll confirm whether it's a match or not. The other thing that we're doing with Raptor is we can put in custom alerts. And so if there's, let's say, a custody issue that's happening or an order of protection in place, when we scan that ID, if we've put a custom alert in place, then it will also pop up a notification. So the sex offender notification is the one in red there. The one in blue is the one that's a custom alert. And so it'll pop it up and it will say, hey, there's a potential issue here. Go ahead and check on this a little bit further. And then the other thing that we can do is, and I'll show you when we're in the system here, is there's an emergency button up on the top. And it's much like the panic button, but it's silent. And so if we go ahead and press that emergency button, the administration at each building would be contacted through a text message, a phone call, and an email to say, hey, your front office staff needs your help, come now. And so, we could have a parent that's upset. We could have an emergency. Maybe there's a student having a medical issue, but that emergency button allows us to have quick access to our administration. The other thing that's nice with Raptor is that we can now have a visual. We can run reports to see how many people are truly coming in and out of our buildings every day. And so, when you're not in the buildings, you don't actually really know who's coming in and out. So we have agencies that are coming in and out. We have parents that are coming in and out. We have a whole variety of people that may be coming in and out of our buildings each day. And so I'm going to put you guys to the test here. And we really started Raptor on November 6th. So that was about a week and a half ago. How many people do you think have been in and out of our buildings district-wide in a week and a half? I just ran this report today.
Around 200.
865. 865 people. We would never have probably put that number together before we had Raptor. And so, like I said, it's a whole variety of reasons that people are coming into our buildings, but they're coming into the building, and it's our responsibility to keep our kids safe when those visitors are there. All right, and so with that, we're going to do a little bit of demonstration, and Aaron's been so nice to volunteer. What Aaron's going to do is he's going to come down here, and we're going to actually run his driver's license. We're going to treat him like he's a visitor in our school today. And so we're going to run through that process, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Sure about the sexual predator thing, Aaron?
Should be good.
Okay, so Aaron, I'll have you come around this way. I'll actually let you do it. And if you just want to stick your driver's license in the slot there, and then I'll go ahead and hit scan. And then you'll be able to see that it's scanning his driver's license. And again, what it's collecting right now is his photo, his first name, his last name, and his birth date. I don't know, it's taking a long time. There we go. Okay. but it's not actually done any background checks yet. That was just gathering the information. And so we have to do a little bit more work on our end. We're going to scroll down and we're going to put the destination that Aaron's going to, and we can put some notes in there. So if he's going to a classroom, we can say that, you know, he's going to Mrs. Karen's classroom, or we can put classroom in the destination and then Mrs. Karen in there as an example. Now when we hit submit and print, now it's actually doing the check in the background. And so it's scanning those databases that we discussed. And if he is cleared, he is going to get a visitor's badge. But on the visitor's badge, you can see in bold letters, it says visitor up on the top. And if you're a contractor, it's going to say contractor. It's going to say the date and the time of your visit, your name, where you're heading, and then the school that you should be visiting. And so now I know if Aaron puts this on and he heads over to Parkside, I know he's not scanned in over there necessarily because his badge says Marshall Middle School. And so I also think about Raptor in terms of emergency management. If there were ever an emergency within one of our buildings, we need to be able to account for every person that's in the building. And so this is a tool or a system that allows us to run those reports quickly and say, we know Aaron was visiting today. Thank you.
How do you know when they check out?
So a couple of ways we can check out is when they're leaving, we can actually, they come visit us and we can hit sign out, and I can see that these people right now were signed in at our building, and I can just go through and sign them all out. Otherwise, if they forget to sign out, the system automatically logs them out at 5:30 every night. And so we start fresh every day. The other thing that we just implemented a few days ago was a kiosk in every building. And so with this system right here, you would actually have to walk up to the admin assistant. She would scan your card. But once you've been a visitor in one of our buildings one time, you now are in the system. And so the next time you come, you can walk up to the kiosk and scan your driver's license yourself, and then it will spit out a badge that you can wear. As long as it checks in the background every time that you check into a building. It's not just a one-time background check.
It's efficient.
What's your protocol if they don't have driver's license or ID?
And so we actually have developed a procedure guide because there's going to be questions or there's going to be times like that. And so what we're asking is that if you don't have a government-issued ID, if you can bring some type of photo identification, whether it's a badge from your employer, whether it's a student badge, whatever that might be, just so we can verify that you are who you say you are. And the last thing I'll talk about, and Dion touched on this a little bit, is but signage within the buildings. We've got some new procedures here in the district, and people get to the front doors and they don't always know what to do. And so we've just developed some consistent signage that says push the button on the intercom for assistance, and then all visitors beyond this point will be required to provide a photo identification. And yes, we may ask that you go out to your vehicle and get your driver's license, but again, it's for the safety of our students. We also felt it was important on these signs to have it in Spanish, Karen, and Somali. And so all visitors should be aware of what the signs are letting them know. And that concludes our presentation. What questions can I help with?
How was the feedback with the 800 visitors on the photo ID? Were there people who didn't have one or didn't bring one, or?
No, I mean, there's always going to be times where people walk into a building and don't carry their driver's license with them. I would say that a great majority of the people are very receptive. They're very appreciative of us doing this. We've had contractors come in through our office here, and we've said, you know, we really need your photo identification. And they've said, oh, you guys are doing this now too? We've experienced this at, you know, and they'll list a couple of schools. But once we explain why we're doing it, people are appreciative that we are. I really haven't had anybody get angry about it. And it'll just become the new protocol. In a year from now, I don't know that we'll be having this conversation because people will be used to just carrying their identification when they come into the building. It's just something new.
I think with implementing the secured entry and this at the same time actually helped. Because it's not like, they're going hand in hand with each other, so people are understanding. I know a couple locations, we've gotten some really good feedback. Like Tricia said, parents are actually appreciative that we're doing this.
So you have to have your driver's license scanned every time, or once it?
So you have to do it in this system one time, but then you can walk up to the kiosk with your driver's license next
Still have
time
to have your
and do
driver's
it. Yeah. And let's say you did forget your driver's license at home or you've lost it. Once you're in the system, we can do a manual check and pull up your information that way. But we would prefer if you could bring your driver's license each time.
So students coming back from dentist or whatever, they had to check in each time, right?
No, not with this system.
No, I
We're-
mean, but they had to get buzzed into the
Yep,
building,
right.
correct?
Yep,
That's good.
that's correct.
That's good.
Very thorough. And it won't take long, and it will be standard operating procedure. And I don't see anyone feeling inconvenienced by the fact that we're operating for student safety.
Correct. And I should add, we did send a letter home to each family within the district explaining it, as well as to all of our contractors and vendors within the district. So everybody should be well informed, and if they have questions, they're certainly welcome to contact their buildings or us here in the district office, and we'll
That
help.
information's on our website as well?
Yes. Yep.
What's the protocol if somebody does come up an offender? Do you call the administrator, or?
Correct. Yeah. Each of
Do they
the,
make a decision, or?
yep, it's on a case-by-case basis. We don't necessarily know what the situation is. We know that if somebody is a match, that they won't be allowed access one-on-one or, alone in the building, that they will need to be escorted throughout the building and with somebody at all times. But like I said, on a case-by-case basis, and the building principals will be handling that.
The custody thing would be interesting, though. That's going to be where you have some issues probably, but that's good.
Yeah.
Another question, and maybe you answered it earlier. Occasionally, if there's a divorce setting and it's a non-custodial issue, a parent is not to have access, is that information in there?
If we enter it, yes. So if there is an issue with, can you ask me your question again?
If there's a restraining order,
Sure, yes.
the other parent is not allowed to see the children or
Correct.
eat with the children or whatever.
That would be an instance of a custom alert that we would put in there, and then we would actually upload the documentation, and so we have easy access to it to say, here's the information from the courts that we've been provided.
Because we do have some of that.
We do.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well done.
Moving on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion? We'll vote, please. It's approved. Financials, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's open for discussion. Anything you'd like to bring up, sir?
No, everything's right on track.
Very good. We'll vote on that then. Is approved. Anything on the treasurer's report? No, look good. Anybody have any questions? Board forum, board members, anything you'd like to bring up?
I have a meeting of the collaborative on Wednesday. We have requests for about $81,000, and we've got $45,000 that we're going to divvy out, so it'll be pick and choose. But it's nice to have that money available to us. We had one request from our school district, English Learners Program, Kari Ellers, for a family movie kind of thing, and I don't know how that's going to sort out. There's 9 of us who vote, so I will be obviously promoting it. But lots of requests, not enough money. I'll let you know.
Good.
Pride and the Tiger Foundation met last week. They're trying to map out some planning moving forward, and we'll continue to have monthly meetings moving moving on in that organization as well.
That was a nice front page article, by the way. On the Independent, what was
Oh, yeah, the
from
fund, the
pri-
fund use, yeah.
Yeah, funding.
Very good. Moving on to our administrators report.
Hopefully you had a chance to read all of them or look through them. I just pulled a couple items from each of the reports. From my report, we're getting ready for and yet hoping we don't have to use e-learning days this winter. Just some things happening there. And just for clarification purposes, if or when we have a snow day prior to February 17th, that will not be an e-learning day. And then if we have a second snow day prior to February 17th, we will have an e-learning day. So theoretically, knock on wood, let's just say next week on Tuesday, we have a snow day. We would make that day up on February 17th. And then if we had another snow day in early December, then we would start using those as e-learning days. Just another opportunity to transition into figuring all this out and making sure we're doing the best that we can to be deliberate and thorough. And then I also provided some updates about different events and whatnot taking place with some of the referendum-related projects, and including many of the things that Dion talked about today. In Darcy's report, she gave some really good information about balanced literacy and the work that's happening with that at Parkside. In Eric's report, he kind of approached things from a neat perspective where he talked about how teachers hook kids into learning and had some examples and some pictures and some of the things that are happening at Westside. Mary Kay's report, she shared that the middle school math team and the Knowledge Bowl team are doing well so far in this season and included names of different students. And then there was a Youth Frontiers Kindness Retreat for fifth graders that was held, and there were several pictures in there. I think that's something that we've done for a number of years. A couple things from Brian's report at the high school. Term 1 academic performance numbers in terms of percent of students passing classes looked good. I believe that all grades were above the 3-year average, and that's a positive thing. And then also Brian shared some information about on October 30th, SMSU hosted administrators and counselors from schools in our region and shared information about scholarship certificates that the administrators or counselors can give out to their upcoming graduates. So a good opportunity for not just Marshall graduates, but graduates from schools in our area. In Amanda's report from Maytech, she shared that information that SLT, their site leadership team, is looking at pretty detailed data for attendance of students and also similar to what Brian shared, students passing courses. We know both are important. And then she also did a nice job of including some photos of different teaching and learning things that are taking place at Maytech. In Bruce's report for activities, he shared kind of an overview of fall activities success, marching band, number of Big South Conference championships, and also accomplishments for teams and individuals at the section, district, and state level. And then Bruce also shared that the MHS speech team for last year was recognized something called the degree of merit, and that's based on the number of students competing and their success in sanctioned events. Something that's not in Bruce's report, but I attended the Big South Conference Board of Directors meeting last week, and so that's all of the schools, obviously, that are in the Big South Conference. And I might be off on this a little bit, but I think we had 7 or maybe 9 schools, football teams, for example, from the Big South that played in the section championship. So you talk about 13 schools and how many of them, because we're kind of spread out and we're at different levels, not just in football, but volleyball and all kinds of other activities. All our schools do really well, and I don't think that there are many conferences that can sort of claim that level of success. So a shout out to the Big South Conference. In Jeremy's report, he provided some updates on our World's Best Workforce planning and shared information about a document that we call the Key Indicators of Progress, or KIP, which sort of helps with our own internal accountability. In Beth's report, she provided updates in each of her areas of oversight, mentoring, English language learners, and QComp. And just in both Beth and Jeremy's report, you'll see an emphasis on the multilingual learners and just how we're really digging into our programming and looking at best practices and really trying to find ways that we might be able to improve what we're doing. In Jackie's report for special education, she shared that on November 27th, during the noon dismissal, we'll be doing some training for paraprofessionals. That training will focus on EL strategies and also reading sort of best practices. And then Jackie also shared information about what's termed high leverage practices in special education, many of which we already do, but we're continuing to revisit those as often as possible. Scott Vandermillen's report from Community Services. MCS is partnering with SMSU on February 11th to host the second annual Culture Conference. So more information hopefully will be forthcoming about that. And I think all of you know, but Marshall Community Services, along with the city of Marshall, will move their office space out to the social science building, I believe, next month on the campus of SMSU while they're doing their renovations and remodeling to City Hall.
Very good questions, board? Director of Business.
Just waiting for you. Just touched on a couple of things. Put our annual P-card rebate out there. We qualified for $18,758.27 this year in rebates. It was up a little over $2,000 the previous year. Thanks to Carla and actually anybody that has the P-card that uses it whenever possible, because it just helps us get more money back with that rebate. And then also wanted to point out Preston Stensrud with the City Parks emailed some interesting information. This year, the high school used a little over 4 million gallons of water out on our fields, and the city used about 2.2 million. If that would have ran through MMU, that would have been a little over $30,000, but all we had to do was pay the electricity, which was total was $1,900. That was between the city and us. So it worked out well. And then also, I didn't put it in my report, but got an email from Coach Ballman throwing out a thank you to Corey, our groundskeeper. Said the fields had looked the best they've ever looked. So he's doing a great job. This is his second year with the district, and he's done very well. That's all I have.
Students.
Hi. At Marshall High School, the end of the quarter was November 1st. The fall band concert was on November 5th. JV and varsity winter season began in November 11th. Girl basketball and boy basketball started on November 18th. The fall musical begins on November 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Quarter 2 conferences are on November 25th. And
For Parkside.
and we and sorry, on the day before Thanksgiving, there will be e-learning day throughout the school.
Okay. For Parkside, there's conference nights November 7th, 12th, and 14th. There's a Scholastic Book Fair it started on the 7th, the 8th, and 11th, 12th, and 13th, and 14th of November.
Okay, and then the Marshall Middle School varsity volleyball tournaments November 8th, and then Knowledge Bowl tournament November 11th. Junior varsity and varsity seasons begin November 11th as well. Junior varsity and varsity girls hockey game November 21st, and boys hockey game November 22nd.
At Maytag, the conferences will be on November 25th. On West Side, the conferences will be on November 4th, 27th, and 12th. All schools, Newton release on November 27th, and no school on the 28th and 29th.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to our first reading of policies 507 and 513. Any questions? Moving on to our action items, approval of the 2018-19 audit. Do we have a motion?
Move.
It's open for discussion.
There weren't any changes to the report since they presented the last school board meeting, so we just recommend the board approval.
I'd just like to mention it's one of our best audits ever. Nice job, thank you. Call for a vote. Is approved. Add the middle school pool roof replacement to the current roofing project. Motion to approve that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
So during our, when we put together the roofing project for the middle school in Parkside through the LTFM bonds, the pool roof section was not included in that. It is needed to be replaced. And so we talked to the company doing the pool, the middle school in Parkside already, and they're willing to add that in at the same pricing since they're already going to be set up. Part of the funds that can be used for that is we had some interest and some proceeds, about almost $58,000 from the LTFM bonds, which would leave about $111,000 that we'd have to use LTFM funds for. So just recommend that the board approves that we add that to the rest of the roofing project.
Questions, board? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Approval to set a special meeting on Wednesday, November 27th at 7:30 a.m. to discuss the potential expulsion of a student. Motion to approve this. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote. It is approved, and you'll send out reminders, please. Move to close the meeting to discuss student expulsion. Motion to approve this. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we'll vote. It is now closed. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
How do you?
We can vote now. Vote.
It's always a balance.
All right, we're reopened. Consideration and potential action related to the resolution of expulsion student A. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Consideration of potential action related to the resolution of expulsion student B.
I'll move.
I'll second.
You can vote. Okay, both passed. Meeting's now over. Thank you.